And welcome everyone to episode 53 of the Drunken Boxing Podcast, coming to you from now a very cold, snowy, and windy Beijing. Alright, we are now in the silly season, the festive season, and I wish all of you that celebrate during this period a very happy Christmas, very Merry Christmas, and a wonderful New Year. I want to thank you all for continually supporting and listening to the Drunken Boxing Podcast throughout the year, and I look forward to even more adventures together in the coming year. Alright, let's get into some general news. There's been quite a bit that's been occurring since the previous episode of the podcast, with myself, with endeavors, etc. Let's get into them one by one. I was interviewed by the Gongfu crew, which is another podcast focused primarily on Chinese martial arts. And in their episode 5 of their first season, they interviewed me. And I really enjoyed talking to the host. He's a very down-to-earth, practical, and actually quite a wonderful interviewer. I've enjoyed all of his episodes so far. And I encourage you all to go listen to the episode with me and their other episodes. I think it's a wonderful addition to the ever-growing library of Chinese martial arts related podcasts that are coming out, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It was primarily focused on Xingyiquan and its practices, so it's quite a specific topic that was covered in this episode with me, give it a listen. Additionally, as you are all probably aware by now, I published my book Dragon Body Tiger Spirit this year, and I've been interviewed as well as people have been reviewing the book since its release, and in the last month or so, quite a few have come out. I did an interview with Falling Leaves Kung Fu with Ash Higgs, who will be an upcoming guest on the podcast, and he has released that in a part of it in a written format of the interview. I'll leave a link in the description or the show description here for you all to go to. In fact, all of the links that I'm mentioning now, you can find them in the description here for you to go listen, or to read, in this case, to read. It was a really interesting interview. I quite liked his questioning. And I think we get into the meat and bones of quite a few topics that you can go have a read, go take a look. And additionally, yet another podcast I was on was Ken Gullette's Internal Fighting Arts podcast. And this time he specifically wanted to interview me following him finishing reading Dragon Body Tiger Spirit. So he had quite a few specific questions about that. But of course, as always, talking about the topics related or referred to in the book will lead to discussions on the practice of Xingyiquan and the broader practice of internal Chinese martial arts as a whole. Again, I always enjoy talking to Ken Gullette. I think he's a wonderful person, a wonderful human being, and I had a great time talking to him. The interview, I think, is quite good, especially if you haven't got much insight into the book and you're interested in certain things, because we do, again, get into quite a bit of information or discussion on topics that are in the book. So it'll give you a good idea if you're kind of not sure what the book's about, or if you want to get it. The podcast or the interview that Ken Gullette did was good, specifically for that, but also in general if you're interested in the practice of the arts. Again, the link is in the description. And once again, a review of the book, this time a written review, was done by my friend Graham Barlow over at the taichinotebook.com. He read the book, he received a copy and read the book and wrote quite a lengthy review giving his thoughts and ideas on it. Again, go take a look there. I think the more information there is out there in reviews like this, the better, so people can get an understanding of what the content of the book is about, and also what the general perception of how it's presented and the information contained is. So I will put that link also in the description. Alright, getting on to some Mushin martial culture YouTube news. I've released a couple of lessons from the discussion or the theoretical content that is contained within the Huajin online learning program, which is the online learning program that has been running for now 3 years, which has a gigantic library, to be honest, of lesson videos. And some of those are discussion videos, varying topics. They can be theoretical, they can be directly related to practice, they can be also other aspects related to general ideas and concepts. One of them that I released was actually an explanation of the 36 traditional verses of Bagua, the second one on that, and for you guys to take a look at some of the content in the program. This is one way to do it, but also it's just a nice introduction to that particular verse that I cover, which is the second verse of the 36, and explain what it means in terms of general practice, etc. Additionally, I also released an even earlier discussion video, which focuses on the value and the method of keeping a training journal. And this is specifically related to a new product that I released that I'll be covering in the introduction now, which is the Xingyi notebook. More on that in a minute. But the discussion itself is something that's quite close to my heart, and I've mentioned many times in interviews, and that's the value and how to keep a journal and how valuable it is to your overall development. So the discussion video gives some insight into that. All right, I also released an addendum video to the Hidden History of Shuaijiao series. This was quite a lengthy video, and it was done with my friend Emanuele Papa, who's a wrestler of many types. He's a Shuaijiao wrestler primarily, but he also does Korean belt wrestling. He does Greco. He also does Mongolian Boch. He's just a wrestling fanatic, and he brought to my attention a video with a famous Shuaijiao legend, Li Baoru, discussing the Mongolian roots and history of Shuaijiao, of Chinese Shuaijiao. So we present this video, I've translated it, subtitled it, and then we actually discuss aspects that are discussed in the video by Li Baoru and extrapolate on those. And it should be, the idea of this was to put just one more cap on top of the already released history. I think it's a very enlightening discussion. Li Baoru's initial comments in his video that are in there are extremely telling, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in the true history of Chinese Shuaijiao. So that's available now on the YouTube channel. All right, in general, we've released quite a few products as well coming into the Christmas season on our mushinmartialculture.com shop, our online store. And there are quite a few things that are related to practice in terms of clothing. So there are new training tops, traditional lantern style pants, and other things. Now, my purpose with regards to the store was initially to have my book be distributed through the store, but also to release things that I had designed myself and things that I had procured myself. Being a long-term Chinese martial arts practitioner, there were always things that I had struggled to get. You could get mainstream things, but the nuanced stuff was difficult to get. So that's one of the things I focus on here. I focus on products that I personally either use or find to be valuable. So it's high quality and stuff that is not easily available. If not, I have things made. Now, some of the apparel that you'll see on the website are my own designs. All the t-shirts and the hoodies, etc. Those are my own designs. And I've always, found that there was a lack of cool looking Chinese martial arts, specifically Xingyi and Bagua related. Just t-shirts and hoodies and things. There's been some corny stuff out there, yes, but I wanted to make something available that was, you'd be happy and proud to wear, and it's fun as well. I enjoy doing it. I also have posters and things like that. But some of the newer content is traditional button-up top, the lantern-style pants. There have been a hoodie that was a play on the Xingyiquan first element, P-Chuan. That says it hurts when I pee, which I did a design for, which is kind of an inside joke, but at least if we can't laugh at ourselves, then what can we laugh at, right? And additionally, as mentioned earlier, I designed a actual training journal and notebook. Now, once again, I've been using notebooks for all of my training career. And yes, you can use any type of notebook, but sometimes I found that a little bit of guidance on what you should write and how you should structure it goes a long way to helping you to not only do the action, but to do it effectively. And journaling is a very good habit. You can watch the video that I just mentioned that gets into the whys and hows regarding this. So I designed a Xingyi notebook, something that is aimed at practitioners of Xingyiquan. But again, the notebook could be used by anybody because the questions and the guidelines inside are generic. It just happens to be that this specific one I did with a Xingyi theme in mind. So there's calligraphy on the front. It's got a PU leather hard cover. It's got an elastic that keeps it closed. It's all high quality paper. There's some imagery of Xingyiquan on the corners of Santi Shi. And then, of course, there's the sections with 2 pages in each training session for during training and post-training reflection. And each book has the equivalent of 96 training sessions worth inside each book. So it really is a worthwhile purchase. These are some things that you want to be able to come back and refer to in the future. It's not something that you write down and forget about. So the quality of the notebook also serves to be lasting. Anyway, that was just recently released. It's available on the Mushin Martial Culture website. Go take a look. And as mentioned, watch the video on the value and the method for that. Additionally, you can get a combo with the Dragon Body Tiger Spirit book, along with a Xingyi notebook, either in hardcover or softcover, directly from the website, from our online store, at a discounted rate. If you buy them together, there's a package deal there. That's not available through the Amazon store. It's only available directly through our website. We also released a hoodie with the famous Shanxi Xingyiquan master Che Zhai. Go take a look at that. I designed it based on those old, well, not rather old, but those somewhat popular with the hipster generation t-shirts of Che Guevara. Well, Che spelt the same way, but not the same person, and definitely not the same ideology. I thought it would be funny to do something in that line and actually bring something valuable to be put on your shirt, as opposed to, well, we'll not get into that. So there is a new design of that hoodie available on our website. All right, and one other product that was just released last week is an iron body Paida metal brush. It's a conditioning beater. These are generally used to do body conditioning. You can condition your limbs and your body in general. It's made out of stainless steel, high quality stainless steel. It weighs about 1.5 kilos. And it's made of steel that you use to do this. Now, I've used these for a long time, but they have never been easy to get. It's always been a struggle to find one. And they work very well, and they're very good for conditioning. They're actually considered part of traditional medicine in terms of general health building, but they're definitely directly used by martial artists for conditioning. So to make them available, I had them custom made. So these are now custom made. Actually, the response has been pretty good. Quite a few people have ordered them. If you're looking for something like this, which again is not even easy to get here, but even more difficult to get outside of China, now you have an avenue to get them. I have them custom made. They actually have our Mushin or Wushin Chinese characters on them, and they're available to order, and they ship worldwide, so go check it out. All right, as usual, our Patreon page is where you can support the podcast. We have 3 tiers, 2 for support, and we have a 3rd tier, the Huajin Online Learning tier, which is where you can enroll if you would like to learn the wonderful arts of Hebei Xingyiquan or Liang style Bagua Zhang in full in a systematic manner. The lessons are in-depth. There are many lessons. They're professionally produced, and I'm confident to say that there is no other online program or distance learning program that is quite the same in terms of quality and quantity of content that has been released. And I've seen the results from the people. It's been running for 3 years now, so it's not a new program, and it's continually growing. And I've seen the results from the people that are in the program. Hopefully we can get some exposure to them to show you what they've been able to develop in terms of their practice. But if you're interested in learning the arts, head on over. That's patreon.com/Mushin Martial Culture. If you just want to support the podcast and our endeavors in general, our YouTube endeavors, there's $5 and $10 support tiers as well. And we appreciate all your support. All right, and as usual, if you want to get the book, Dragon Body Tiger Spirit, it's available from the same online store that I've been mentioning throughout up until now, mushinmartialculture.com. But the book is also available directly through amazon.com in both hardcover and softcover. All right, let's get into today's podcast. My guest today is John Eusebio. He began his practice of Chinese martial arts training in Taiwan over 30 years ago. He practiced Longfist and Praying Mantis under the tutelage of the great Gao Daosheng, and he continues to practice within the same school and the same materials that he was taught by Gao to this day. All right, let's get right to it. I bring you John Eusebio. And welcome to the Drunken Boxing Podcast, John Eusebio. Happy to have you here today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's good.
It's an honor to be in your podcast.
Oh, great. The honor's mine. You're over in Taipei, correct?
That's correct. In Taipei, Taiwan.
Okay, great. Some of my listeners who are more familiar with other channels and other endeavors that guests I've had on, like Will Wayne Williams, might actually know a little bit about you because you've been in his Taiwanese series. You were featured in there. So, yeah, maybe you can give a little bit of a background information about yourself.
All right, about myself? I thought we were going to talk about Will. Just kidding.
No.
Yeah,
we'll rip him to shreds later, but let's start with your introduction.
All right. Okay, my name is John Eusebio, and I'm originally of Filipino heritage. So, American citizen, so that would make me Filipino American, I suppose. But
does that make you an Americano? Or
maybe I'm not sure. But I moved to Taiwan in 1980 when I was 8 years old. So I've been here most of my life, pretty
Oh, since you
much.
were 8. Wow.
Yes. So the only time that I lived outside of the country for a long period of time was when I lived in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And I lived there continuously for 5 years.
Hmm.
But in total, I probably lived in Seattle for maybe 7 years.
Okay.
But for a long stretch of time, I was there for 5 years.
Right, right.
Okay, that's about my background. And did you want to talk about martial arts?
Yeah, we'll get into that. I'm actually quite curious as to
All
why
right.
why you got into why you moved from the USA. Was it from the USA to Taiwan at the age of
No,
8?
no, actually, I was born in the Philippines,
Ah, okay.
and then I moved from Manila to Taipei in September of 1980. I still remember the date because
What
it was
what was the catalyst for that?
well, the catalyst was the economic situation in the Philippines was
Okay.
becoming worse because of the I wouldn't say well, and historically they'd say the Marcos regime had something to do with it, but
Hmm.
overall the decline of the economic situation there. So my grandfather at that time uh, was living in Taipei, so asked my mom to have me and my sister move over to Taipei.
Okay. Okay.
So my grandparents have been here, or well, they're deceased now, but they had lived here for almost 30 years before that.
Wow.
Yeah. So my background is actually like um, my grandparents had lived in China,
Hmm.
and then they moved over to Macau and then to Hong Kong. So they were mostly around Asia at
Right.
that time, like yeah, China area region, yeah,
Well,
and
it's
Taiwan, of course.
very interesting. That's really interesting. So you're basically, I mean, you said you're an American citizen, but you're more Taiwanese than anything else. I mean, you've been there most of your life.
It's very hard to explain myself when people ask me what my background is. So I
Hmm.
kind of have to give them oh, do you want the short story or the long story?
Whichever's more interesting, you know? So,
Yeah. So your question, to answer your question, do I consider myself more Taiwanese? Well, my students that I teach, and I tell them that, I've been in Taiwan longer than you've been alive, right? Because
mm,
I'm already 50 years old, and my youngest student is probably 6 years old, and the oldest is, not even older than me. So yeah, I've been here longer than you, and you still call me a foreigner. So yeah, but yeah, I would consider myself part of Taiwan, but at the same time outside of it. I guess you would say that for, I think there's a term for the third culture kids or something.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or 老外, as they call them here.
Exactly. 我就是老外，我就是老外。
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's quite interesting that in Chinese culture, China, Taiwan, etc., it's you're not really non Laowai unless you're Chinese, right? So
Exactly. I have an American师兄. His name is Colin,
yeah.
and he married a Taiwanese, and his parents-in-law, when they were visiting him in the United States, they kept saying, "Oh, 你的先生老外," and then
Mm.
he told them like, "Wait, wait, wait. 你在美国, you're in America. 你是老外吗？不是我. You're the foreigner, not me."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's quite interesting. I mean, even if
Right.
if a Chinese person comes here who's never been to China, and maybe even his parents have never been to China, and they've 2 generations removed or 3 generations removed, lived outside their whole life, they'll still be considered okay. Well, you're Chinese, but that other dude who's lived there for 42 years or whatever, if he's a Caucasian or whatever, non-Chinese, then he's a Lawai. It's quite interesting.
Yes, exactly. I can relate because I have a friend of mine who's also a student. He
Right.
came over to visit me in Taiwan. So his mother is from Guangdong, and so he speaks Cantonese and a little bit of Mandarin. So he visited me in Taipei. So he's never been to Taipei, and then we went to a restaurant, and the waitress was asking him, what are you going to order? And then he was looking at me, and I was like, "Don't ask him, ask me." 你问我，不要问他.
Yeah.
'Cause he doesn't speak Chinese. So,
I had that once too. I brought a Chinese kid descent from South Africa to Beijing. Must have been 2000 and maybe 5. And I mean, his parents were born in South Africa. His grandparents were born in South Africa. I think
wow.
the first generation that left was his great or great great grandparents. So the kid is like, I mean, he's more South African than me, you know. Because I mean,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
was born there, but I lived overseas mostly, you know. So he's got a heavy accent and a South African
Mm,
accent. He only
mm,
speaks that. I
right.
brought him here, and we'd go out, and then would go to a restaurant or whatever, and then they'd always talk to him as if he's helping me out, and then he'd look at them and scratch his head, and then I'd be translating for him, and then they'd be like, "Wait a minute." And then they'd call their friends over. "Come over here. This foreigner is
Check this
translating
out.
for this Chinese kid. Look at this."
Check this out. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, you have those YouTube videos where you have the Caucasian person who speaks fluent Mandarin, and
right.
it seems to surprise people, and yeah, it gets a lot of views, right? Maybe we should have a channel like that, right?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I've thought about, yeah, I do all this shit for Chinese martial arts. It's a lot of
Right.
a lot
Exactly.
of effort. I get very little views. Maybe I should make some bullshit videos, but then again, I can't really make bullshit videos, so I
Yeah.
guess that's not really an option. But all the power to those people making bullshit videos. Seems to
Yeah.
work for
Right.
them.
Exactly. Like Will and you keep the martial arts, the integrity of the martial arts
Yeah, we
intact.
try.
So
We
I
try.
that's why I like listening to your podcasts, watching your videos, and now your book, right?
Yeah. Well,
I don't have a copy yet, but maybe later.
all right. Well, whenever you want one, you let me know. Yeah, I think Will's also. I mean, Will's channel is older than mine, so he's been doing this longer, and I think it's an important channel. And I also think that more recently, a few more channels are starting to come up. So, but mostly focused on Chinese martial arts, and a couple more
Right.
podcasts here and there. And I think that's good,
Yeah.
because I remember for a
He
long
did.
time there was. I mean, if you'd look for a kung fu podcast or something, you wouldn't find anything. It was one of the reasons why I thought, when I've got the opportunity, I want to talk to some people and put some podcasts out there, because I know we're not a big group of people in the general terms in the a big picture of the world, but we want some stuff that we're able to digest that's in our interest, and there just isn't. So I'm happy to see there's more coming up.
Exactly. I listened to your podcast and people that you had on your podcast, and I learned a lot from them
Oh, great.
too. So that's yeah,
Well, now we're going to be
enjoy.
talking about you on this podcast, so we're going to get
All
your
right.
story. So you
What's my
moved to
story?
Taiwan, and how did your Chinese martial arts road and path begin?
Okay. Well, I right now I'm still living in the area where I grew up in.
Mm.
So it's the area. It's Tianmu area, and it's at that time it was a very Western community. They had the international schools nearby,
Mm.
and they had a lot of foreigners here. So my best friend at that time was a blonde-haired kid from Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I was going to the international schools at that time. So besides the you know local neighbors, I would play dodgeball with them. I didn't have much contact with the locals in terms of their culture.
Mm.
So that kind of I was very curious about Chinese culture. Anyway, so my story is that my curiosity about what Chinese culture is led me to Chinese martial arts. I wanted to see what Taiwan really is, right?
Right.
So anyway, so my uncle, he was teaching English at this one cram school, and his coworker David is American. He came to Taiwan also to learn martial arts, and he happened to be a student of Gao Daosheng.
Mm.
Yeah, and so my uncle said, "Hey, why not have my son, train with you?" So my cousin trained with David for like I think maybe a month or so.
Mm.
And then one day he came to my home, my uncle, and he was uh, talking to my mom, and he was seeing that I mostly played video games. And he said, "Hey, my son is practicing martial arts." You know, he's kind of showing off to my mother, and I said, "What, Andrew? He's doing martial arts?" And that got me curious. So anyway, I went with Andrew one day to see David, and when I saw David, he said that he'd hurt his back, so he was going back to the States. I don't know
Oh,
how he hurt his back, but it was like 30 years ago. And
oh,
then he said, "Well, I'll take you to the park and I'll show you some stuff and teach you something." So we went to this one park, and he showed us like a gin. I remember that, and he showed us a little bit of the drunken boxing.
mm,
I was really impressed, and started teaching us a few moves of the praying mantis. You know, the Tanglang Shou is the name of the form.
right.
And then he said, "Well, I'm gonna be leaving for the United States. Why don't you just go straight to my teacher, Gao Daosheng 老师?" And I said, "Sure." And well, that's the beginning of the story, and that's how I really started. It's just
And how old were you then?
I was I think 17, 17
Okay.
years old. Yeah,
Okay, cool. And your cousin
just
about the
about
same
where
age as you?
he's 2 years younger than me.
Okay, so you
So
guys started at the same time. Did he carry on when you went to Gao Daosheng?
he stopped after 3 months.
Okay, back to the video games.
No, he wasn't really playing video games. He's more of a he has his other hobbies. He tends to switch to from hobby to hobby.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's not something that everybody joins and starts and sticks to, but it seems like you did. So what was it like going to Gao Daosheng?
Yeah. Anyway, so the next day, after that training in the park with David, we went to Gao Daosheng Lao's school.
Mm.
I'll refer to him as Gao Laoshi.
All right.
And so he has this basement school in Wanhua. Anyway, so we went there, and luckily they were preparing for a performance the next day. They had the anniversary of the school,
Mm.
of the founding of the Drunken or the Longfist Praying Mantis Association. And so they had this performance. They were rehearsing.
Right.
So they said when I went there, Kalashu wasn't there. He actually had another branch school in the Songshan area, and he
Right.
said, "Well, wait for him. He'll come over." And then while we were waiting for Kalashu to arrive, I saw the Ashishong. They were all practicing their routines that they would perform
Mm.
the next day. So I got to see some of the halberds, the praying mantis form. They were all sort of like that scene in Shaolin Temple,
Mm. Right.
where
Where you're peeking over the wall.
exactly. But they're performing right in front of me. I was like really impressed. So I said, "Wow, I've never seen this in my area."
Yeah.
And then anyway, so half an hour later, Kalash looks down the basement stairs, right? And
Mm.
they tell him, "Hey, there's these two guys over here. They're waiting for you." And Kalash looks at me and then tells me, he tells me to show me how to do the mabu, right?
Mm.
So he tells me, "你站这样." And then he leaves. He goes into his office, and then I'm there keeping that position and shaking,
Yeah. Yeah.
until the 大师兄 said, "Oh, 可以休息,"
Mm. That's
Yeah, so
quite
that was
common.
the first. Yeah, exactly. A lot of
Yeah.
people have that story. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Well,
common with
because
the
they
older
were
generations. I'm not so sure about the younger generation teachers now, but definitely with older generations. And it's almost like it's a deliberate for getting you there, you know? So,
right.
yeah.
So, well, he was busy. Of course, they were preparing for the performance, and they didn't really have the regular class schedule.
Right.
But at least they didn't ignore me. Yeah, so I practiced the mabu and some of the basic stances,
Mm.
and the other Sushong showed me the move. He told me to show what David taught, and well, it was only my first day yesterday, right? So I
Right.
showed him a few of the moves that I remember. Yeah, I just remember that when I went back home, I had to very basically pick up my legs, to to put on, to lie on the
Manually.
bed, yeah, manually, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
then
that's it.
and then the next they told us to come back the next day. Oh, we're having the performance. You're welcome to watch. And so we went there early in the morning and helped out at the school to load the weapons into the pickup that was at the truck, the
Mm.
flatbed truck. Yeah. So they were, and then we spent pretty much the whole day, watching the performance. I was really impressed with Kalash because
Hmm.
he was in his 70s
Well, yeah.
and he performed a two-man form, the halberd versus the spear, and he did some applications.
Okay. Yeah, and at that age,
And
he's
then,
probably still going. He's probably still going. Um,
right,
very
right,
well.
yeah. So that was in 1989. So
Okay.
I think November of 1989. Yeah, so I remember that day very vividly.
What
And
is
the
yeah, carry on, sorry.
yeah, I was just as I said, I was impressed with Gao Daosheng Lao's uh, performance, especially at his age, and also some of the Da Xiong.
Mm.
And I said, I want to learn that. I wonder when I can learn that. Maybe let's see.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. So,
What
but I made an
is Gao Laosh's background for the listeners? Gao Daosheng's background.
Gao Daosheng Lao is originally from Shandong province.
Hmm.
So he was born in Jimo County. At that time, the records, his birth records, they were not, they're not exactly very exact, but I think he was born in 1915.
Okay. So
That's what his
already a
passport says.
Republican period.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Republican era. And his father was a blacksmith,
Okay.
and he started martial arts quite early. His first style was the Digong style.
Okay.
She do a lot of the rolling,
Yeah. Tumbling.
the tumbling, and the scissor. Was that the scissor kicks, right?
Right.
Yeah. So he had he told me his teacher was one of those village teachers. They'd come over to the village to teach the locals
Mm-hmm.
martial arts. So that was his first style, which is the Qigong, yeah, in Jimo. And then later on, he moved to Qingdao. Yeah. He worked at that time life was not, it was very hard. It's harsh, right?
Mm.
At that time, yeah, people, like, the economy wasn't, there were a lot of poor people. So
Yeah.
he worked at a matchstick factory. Yeah, because his education was limited, right?
Right.
So he got a job at the matchstick factory, and then he'd also train. I don't know what he was training at that time. I think it was Longfist at that time.
Yeah, but that's a generic
Eventually,
term. So I mean,
right,
it's
right, right. I think he told me maybe it's like Taizu Chen or something. Yeah, well,
okay.
whatever he's teaching us came from that time.
Right.
And later on, he got into the Qingdao Guoshuguan, which is the Qingdao Guoshu Academy,
Right.
the martial arts academy. So he was there. That was before the war, and then the war eventually happened, and he joined the military. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was his background. Other than that, he told me also that he'd besides Digong and the Longfist and the Qingdao Guoshuguan, he also would go to the what's that? A Laoshan. I think there was like this Laoshan temple or
Yeah.
something. He
Yeah.
said he would practice qigong there. Qigong.
Laoshan. I mean, even today, it's famous for a couple of things. One is there's a beer from Laoshan,
Yeah, right.
which
It's a Laoshan pijo.
yeah, which is not very good as beer. But they also make incense from Laoshan, which is decent. They make some nice, decent sandalwood incense. So I guess
So
that's
Qingdao beer is better, right? Better than Laoshan beer.
oh yeah,
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 I've had both. Yeah, I've had both. I'd agree with you there.
yeah. Okay, so he did
Yes,
something of the internal type of qigong type practices at
I
that.
don't know if it was internal. I think it was more of the paita. The
Right.
yeah, the
Ma-
paita. This is sort of
Marrow
internal,
washing.
external. Yeah, exactly. And then
Yeah.
he also told us about learning. Uh, he said he was really skinny at that time, so he was able to jump really high. They would make them, dig a hole and then jump in
Qigong.
and out of that hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and then eventually he said that he got to as deep as to his neck, and he could
Okay.
jump out of that hole without, straight, like,
Straight up.
so yeah, qinggong, yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
that is a method that they do. You just gradually dig the hole deeper and deeper, and
Mm.
you gradually are able to jump out higher and higher. It's quite impressive. It's
So
logical as well, but it takes exactly what the name is, Gongfu. It takes a
it
long
takes time,
time of effort
long
to
time.
be able to do it. In fact, I think even that method is in that 72 Arts of Shaolin book from the Republican era. You can actually see it. The
Oh,
same
really?
thing. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that old book. It's quite a well-known book.
I'm gonna ask my Sishong Liu Kangyi. Hey, do you have
Yeah,
that book? He probably has it.
it probably does. It's a quite a famous Republican era book.
Hey,
What was the
yeah,
guy's
there's a lot
name?
of.
I think the guy who wrote it, for some reason, the full name slips. It's not. It's. I'm not recollecting. I think his surname was Jin. Um,
Okay,
maybe Jin Injong. Maybe. Anyway, it's
maybe.
his book.
Yeah, there are a lot of those types of books. Sometimes I see them with illustrations,
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just
climbing up the wall,
right.
right? Yeah,
Right. Right.
qigong, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's his background, and yeah, his
And
martial arts background, his training in China.
and would he also? I mean, as you mentioned and referred to earlier, Tang Lang Shou or Mantis Hands, the form.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm not.
obvious.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he really trained in praying mantis while he was in Shandong,
Okay.
but he was exposed to it for sure because
Definitely.
Shandong is the home of Tang Langshan.
Yeah.
But he said at that time, Changshan was much more widespread, much more popular,
Right.
and the mantis guys sort of kept indoors. They were much more secretive in some
Mm.
ways. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So he was saying that, but I'm sure he did. Uh, he got exposed to that. He did know the teachers, so he said, "Oh, I met famous mantis teacher named Li Kunshan. Oh, I met him. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but he didn't. He didn't. I don't know if he really hanged with them or anything. He didn't say. Yeah.
So
But
then,
I think most of his
where did his mantis learning take place mostly?
his mantis came mostly from Wang Songting, Wang
Oh.
Songting Shiye. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Wang Songting has a reputable background as well
Mm-hmm.
as a he's more known as a what you say, a gangster, part of the mobster, somebody that they would contract to on a hit.
Okay.
But he was also famous as a martial artist.
Yeah,
He
that
had
was
he had he
also
practiced many.
common. That was also common
Yeah,
back then.
he practiced many styles,
Mm.
but he's known for I suppose praying mantis. Yeah, he was also taught at the Qingdao Guoshuguan. Qingdao Guoshuguan, from what I've read, is that they had different schools, right, spread all over the city.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have like he taught at the what you call the 第十联习所.
Okay.
So they had different yeah, places. So he was the Jiaolian for that, head of that school there, the 第十 Jiaolian所in Qingdao.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So Wang Shengting, stories I heard of from other people is that he was wealthy. He owned several boats, and every time he met a martial arts teacher who would he'd like the skills, he wanted to learn the skills, he would sell a boat, use that money to learn from that teacher. So back in the day, that was the way you learn, right? You sort of is 养那个老师, so you give your teacher allowance
Yep.
and have them stay at your house
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
feed them, and then they'll, if they feel like it, they'll teach you something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was
So
also
you
the way.
give them alcohol, and pretty much have them stay at your house, right?
Yeah. Yeah, give them some
So
hongbao and you've got it going. Yeah.
yeah, so that was what I heard about Wang Songting was a wealthy individual whose passion was the martial arts.
Well, that's commitment,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
right,
like you don't need it. You've got money, and yet you're still sacrificing money and time to learn the martial arts. So it's thanks to people like that these
yeah,
many of these styles still continued.
right,
So
exactly. So I think he was living in near Yantai, near that area, the Yantai
okay,
area. Yeah, and and he got into with the Qingbang, right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. He's mentioned actually in Robert W. Smith's book,
Oh, masters and methods.
Chinese boxing methods and method. Yeah, that's the he was mentioned in that, and uh, he wanted Robert W. Smith wanted to learn with Wang Songting, but Wang Songting declined, and it was a big disappointment for Robert W. Smith.
Oh, okay. I must
Yeah,
actually relook at
yeah,
that book now that you mention it. I have it somewhere,
right,
and then I'll
yeah.
look up a
But
little bit about him.
speaking of Robert W. Smith,
Mm.
we actually contacted him, and he was gracious enough to uh, provide us with a film of Wang Songting. That's the
Oh,
only
wow.
known film of Wang Songting.
Cool. Have you
Yeah,
made it available
yeah, he
publicly, or?
bits of it, yes.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Yeah,
Why are
yeah.
there bits
So
that
he
you
was
don't want to be public?
well, mm, with films when you put it out there, people will claim all sorts of things. So I
Oh,
try
yeah.
to, yeah, yeah. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, Robert W. Smith, the film he provided was this 8 millimeter film
Mm.
when he was here in 1961, I believe. He was
Wow.
here, and there was a performance of uh, Taiwan martial arts masters at that time, and he got to film uh, Wang Songting and other, you know, renowned martial artists in Taiwan at that time. So, but he gave us the Wang Songting portion only. So he gave us the Wang Songting performing Tai Tzu Quan. Right? Oh, sorry, what was
Oh,
this? Tai Yi Quan.
Tai
We don't
Yi Chuan.
that Tai Yi Quan. Right?
Yeah.
And the other one was a drunken form,
Mm.
and then praying mantis. I think it's Lanjie, yeah, or
Okay.
Luanjie. Yeah, there's two
Yeah.
names for it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
depending on the pronunciation, Lanjie or Luanjie.
Right. So, is there a
And then
specific style of mantis that your him and the subsequent generations mantis is derived from, or is it more eclectic?
it, it's pretty much the same. Like for example, Will and I have a lot of things in common
Mm.
because of his lineage. In praying mantis, Liang Xiang, right?
Yeah.
In Lion County, he's the famous teacher who taught Zhang Hualong, and then from Zhang Hualong it's Song Zide, right?
Yeah.
So we can trace our lineage to Liang Xiang, but through Liang Xiang's son.
Ah.
So Liang Jingchuan or Liang Zhongchuan, that's his name, right? So
Mm.
we're from that lineage, yeah, from Liang Xiang's son, and then Will is more towards the uh, Zhang Hualong and Song Zide.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so Liang Xiang had several students. So yeah,
Mm.
so we share some commonalities, forms, theory, things like that.
Yeah. So it must have been interesting while it was there to compare, well, notes basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did some basically martial arts exchange where you know he showed me stuff, I showed him stuff, and we kind of learned
Very cool.
techniques and forms, and yeah, that's what you call an exchange, right? It's not just me like showing off, right?
Yeah. 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 No, well, that's nice. I mean, that's
Yeah, right.
it's good to see that still happening today. So there's so
Yeah,
much animosity in martial arts, especially in Chinese martial arts for some reason. So it's good to see that.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, Will's a nice guy, so I enjoyed exchanging with him. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So your grand teacher taught your teacher. Your teacher, how did he end up in Taiwan?
You mean Wang Songting?
No, Gao Daosheng.
Gao Daosheng. Okay, Gao Daosheng, he moved with the military. He was in the military, right?
Oh,
He
that's what you
fought.
mentioned.
Right, he fought with during the counter Zhang, right? The
Right.
War of Resistance.
Against
So that
Japan.
went on for yeah, that went on since what? From 1936 to 1945, right?
Mm.
Yeah, he was involved in the guerrilla warfare with the team. So yeah, they would go out at night and I'm gonna mention it, but yeah, they did attacks on the Japanese military,
Right.
and then after that war ended, there's the communist, right? The
Right.
Chinese communist. So he eventually moved south, kept retreating, right? Then eventually retreated to Hainan, and then from Hainan they took retreated to Kaohsiung, yeah,
Okay.
from Hainan Island to Kaohsiung. So that's how he ended up in Taiwan. And then he after he was discharged from the military, he started moving up north. So I asked him like, "Oh, so where have you been?" He says, "I've been everywhere in Taiwan." He went to Taichung and then settled in Keelung for a while.
Okay.
And yeah, and then Keelung, he Balashi, his education level, I said, was limited, right?
Right.
So his jobs, of course, his choices were limited too. So
Of
he'd teach
course.
martial arts, but at this also he'd fix bicycles. He did odd jobs.
Yeah. Well, I
Right,
mean, you got to do what you need to do to survive, right? So.
right, exactly. So he was in Geelong, and then eventually moved to Taipei.
Okay. All right. So when he started teaching in Taiwan, was there a lot of mantis there at the time?
Yeah, Taiwan. A lot of the military, the ex-military people, they came over from Shandong, right?
Right.
So the famous Li Kunshan, he
Mm-hmm.
moved to Taiwan. So if I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with the Liang San Shan, the three mountains of Liang.
Right.
The Li Kunshan, Wang Yushan, and Cui Shan. So Li Kunshan moved to Taiwan, and he taught praying mantis here, the Meihua, what they called Meihua Tanglang, right?
Okay.
The old teachers, they don't really differentiate. They just say, oh, Tanglang, 就是 Tanglang, right? They don't really say, oh, 七星 Tanglang, Meihua Tanglang or 六合 Tanglang, but yeah. So Meihua Tanglang, Li Kunshan, he brought that over here. And then there's also Zhang Xiangsan, right? He's the 六合 Tanglang. So he brought it over here. And Wang Songting, for some reason, people say he's, what I've read is Qixing Tanglang.
Okay.
Yeah. So
7-star.
yeah, 7-star. But from what I see, from his lineage and what he taught, I think it's mostly Meihua Tanglang, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, I mean, you'd be the person hands-on to be able to decipher this and
Yeah, I
to.
think it's not the teachers who are really deciding. It's
Right.
the outside people, the scholars, right? They're writing, and then they want to label people what they practice. They want to differentiate
Right.
from that to that. Yeah, the other teachers that they just say, "Oh, 你是练什么的？哦，我是练螳螂拳。那什么
Yeah.
螳螂拳？Which, what 螳螂拳 do you practice?
Yeah.
And then they just 气心 okay, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and if you have too many questions, the old like Galashi was kind of like, you don't want to ask too many questions. You don't want to upset him.
Then you have a short fuse.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
Shandong Piqi, Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I live with Galashi, I lived with him for almost 5 years. So he's peachy. I've seen it, so I don't want
Oh,
to
really?
ruffle. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
so
quite interesting. I mean,
yeah.
you mentioned that Gao Laoshe was learning in the villages. There were people teaching in the villages back in Shandong. That's
Mm,
also very, the villages people, especially during the Republican era. I mean, that was really common that there'd be a local martial arts teacher that would,
yeah,
spend some time in this village teaching, then go to the next village and teach, and they a lot of these villages had. I mean, there wasn't much else for the young people to do in any case, and
yeah, yeah,
they'd finish their days of work, and there'd be an area that they'd meet and they'd train, and
yeah,
that's
exactly.
that was the way of life. So,
Yeah.
in some senses, we mentioned two sides of it. The other side being that, your grand teacher had money and, he was able to
Right.
pay for a teacher. But actually, that was
Right.
less common than what you mentioned with regards to the villages.
Right.
So, yeah.
I can't substantiate the part where Wang Songting was a wealthy person. I'm not sure. It was just
Right.
hearsay, right? Stories,
Right.
Stories. But with Gao Daosheng, there's one. He has a thick Shandong accent, so sometimes you know, part of it might maybe 85, 90%. I could kind of understand, right? After living with him, of course, you get used to the accent, right?
Yeah.
But he did tell me like, oh, so in the villages, how did you practice, right? And he said that um, they would dig sort of like a swimming pool type
Pit.
hole, right? Like that, the big pit, yeah, pit, and they would put like corn stalks things there. That's what I heard, and they would practice there because it was really cold in the winter, and the ground would be there would be snow, so
Mm.
it's not good to practice in the snow. You would slip, right? So they had that kind of area where they would practice. I'm not sure
Oh, I mean, I've heard
that,
something like that as
yeah,
well. What did you
right,
say they put
yeah,
down? Corn stalks.
yeah. The well, part of the like something like he said something like corn, like oh, you
Mm.
mean the leaves or something? Is that the like corn stalk, like
Yeah.
the
No, I think that is something
uh,
that occurred. Maybe that was also done for
yeah,
his
padding
break.
maybe, like padding.
Exactly,
Yeah, break falls,
breakfall.
like yeah, padding. Yeah, yeah. So that's what he said. That's what I got from him.
Yeah,
What
for
he told
sure
me.
that was done. My teacher, I think, mentioned something similar too when he was young, as a young boy. And
Okay,
they would train.
all
They
right.
would also
地国
do something.
地国阳老师
Yeah,
地国阳老师 right? Yeah,
exactly.
he did what's that? The is it 搓脚 fanzi 搓脚 right?
Well, before that, I mean, his first teacher was Zhao Zhong, who he started learning from as a young boy. And Zhao Zhong also
What?
ran a Guoshu school. It was
Okay.
in Haidian district. So he himself, although his main style for himself was Xingyiquan, of course he had a diverse background. He was a professional
Mm,
martial artist. So
yeah.
he started teaching my teacher what he classified as Shaolin Quan. What it is
Right.
exactly, again,
Yeah. Right.
it's a
Yeah. It's
classification.
generic, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
my
generic.
teacher's got a pretty good record keeping, thing. He would always keep notes and whatever. So he still has the notes and the names, etc. and of what he learned, and he remembers most of it. But for that part of the training, they would also make padded areas, like you mentioned. It was only later that his teacher started to teach him Xingyi when he was a little bit older,
Oh, really?
and that's
Yeah, I
normal.
could just imagine.
Yeah, that's
I
normal.
could just imagine because if you go to the very rural areas, that's where do you have a place to space to practice? I mean, I don't think there are parks, right? It's just the cornfield or rice. I
Well,
don't
in
think
the
they grow rice
villages for
in Shandong.
sure.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So
So
and then they would, every season the teacher would teach stuff, and then you'd learn it, and then during the winter time, yeah, maybe it's like a pit. Let's practice, right?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And that was like
yeah,
a form of entertainment. It was a form of social work. It was exercise. It was
yeah,
cultural. It had
yeah, yeah.
function.
Yeah, there are no TVs, no smartphones, right?
Yeah, no
Nothing,
TikTok.
nothing to, yeah, nothing to distract you. Just
So
practice martial arts. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that was Galosh. Then he came over to in Taiwan and taught martial arts, and well, he was involved with several martial artists here. He collaborated with them.
mm,
Um, a part of history, I think uh, they were from the same county. Jimo County was.
mm.
I mean, I don't know if you're familiar. It's Hanjing Town, right?
Yeah. Of course, I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he graduated from the Nanjing Guoshiguan.
Right.
Yeah, and then when he came to Taiwan, he was teaching the police here.
Yeah.
And he's also mentioned, of course, in Robert W. Smith's book. He's
Right.
famous for his Qingna.
Yeah.
So, and he had taught I think he had 5 or 4 famous students.
Yeah.
I think one of them is what's his name? Ah, no, I can't recall. The names are kind of embarrassing because maybe it's the coffee. The caffeine hasn't really
Hasn't kicked in yet?
gone through my head. It
Have
hasn't
another
kicked in
sip
yet, right? Yeah, I'll get to that later. Well, anyway, Kalashu was he was I see old pictures. He didn't really mention Han Jingtang
then.
uh, by name, but he said that oh yeah, the I know them, and that's pretty much it. And then well, from what I heard is when Han Jingtang's son went to Bai Shi with Wang Songting. Yeah, it was actually the same period as Gao Daosheng, same time. So they Bai Shi
Oh.
at the same time,
Oh, so
right?
they'd be
Because
basically 师兄弟, basically. So,
yeah, but Gao Daosheng was much older, right?
yeah.
And he also had an extensive martial arts background, and of course he was also a veteran at that time.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so he, the area Wanhua was where Han Jingtang's martial arts school was, and there was a school there, where Wang Songting taught, that area there. Yeah. Anyway, so Han Jingtang, I suppose he liked Wang Songting's martial arts, so he wanted to learn from him. So he sent his students to learn from Wang Songting. So
Okay.
some of the forms that Wang Songting taught also went over to Han Jingtang's students. So
Do you have
he
any
shared.
examples of that?
Oh, for example, Xiao Yan.
I was gonna say, I know
There's
Xiaohuyan
yeah,
is included
right.
in their curriculum, but that's a Mantis derived.
Yeah, it's more of a hybrid, you would say. It's like a
Yeah,
Longfist and Praying Mantis. You'd have jumping kicks, and then Shenfeng Jiao, right? And then
exactly. Yeah,
after that, and then you'd have like a few of the Mantis hands, that the Bolo Cai Gua.
right. It's funny because there's a grouping of schools in South Africa that the teachers there learned from Taiwanese, and they're connected through descent to Han Xintang, and they teach. It is quite a eclectic system,
Mm.
and there's actually two. I'm sure you're familiar with the Changhong group of schools in Taiwan.
Right, right,
So
right.
the
Exactly.
one comes from the Changhong system, and the other one comes through Yang Jingming, obviously. And both are
Right,
connected to Han Xintang in one way or the other.
right. So I think
I think through
okay.
Li
So
Mao
now,
Qing. Li Mao Qing.
yeah, the name, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say the caffeine, and then I
Yeah,
said, oh, Li Mao Qing, and then you mentioned it, right?
yeah, yeah.
He was one of the students of Han Qingtang.
Right. So they both have somewhat a connection to him. And I remember I have a good friend that was training in that school in South Africa. He actually lives in Taiwan now for the last 20 years. So he was training directly with the Changhong group, and he still is there. But before he moved to Taiwan and he was, training in South Africa, I was, interacting with him a lot. And I was trying to figure out the system that they were doing, because I was like, Erlu Mai Fu and this and that. I'm like, okay,
Ah, yeah,
you're doing Changquan, but you're
right.
also doing Guoshu Institute Lianbu Quan and Gongli Quan.
Uh,
And then you've got Xiao Yan, and I'm like, now suddenly you've got some
right.
Mantis content in there. I'm like, what's going on here? So I
Yeah.
started trying
So
to look into Han Qintang's background to try figure out, and then obviously from there it made sense.
yeah, he had several teachers who taught his students. So they picked
Right.
up other systems. Yeah, and then Shaohuyan was one of the forms. It's safe to say that it was maybe from like Wang Songting, right?
Yeah, yeah, that would make
Yeah,
sense. That would make sense.
yeah,
And
and
the
yeah,
other content that they practice is, I mean, when I look at Han Qingtan's background, I kind of like get, all right, obviously the Guoshuguan curriculum is there, but there's definitely Meihua Zhuang, and there's Meihua in there, and there's definitely some Chachuan content in there as well.
yeah.
And
There was another teacher, Meihua Quan teacher named Wu Tipang,
okay.
Wu Tipang, and I have photos of the teachers together.
Mm,
Um, when Gao Daosheng opened his first school, the Xingsheng Guoshu Academy in Taiwan, what's his name? An Qingtang and Wu Tipang, they attended. So they have this photo. of
Very cool.
of them all together, right?
Did
Yeah.
you
Anyway, so
practice
Xiao
any
Huyan.
Meihua?
From Gao Daosheng, I learned the 四路梅花拳. I'm
Okay.
not sure if that's related to Wu Tipang, but he might have. I didn't really ask Gao Daosheng. He just said it's Digong, right? I took
Ah,
out
okay.
some I took out some Digong. It was too hard for the students. Oh, really? So it's a Changquan set, but it also has some Digong inside it. But Gao Daosheng took out some movements. He told me
Yeah, my teacher
because
obviously as a young boy also learned Meihua basics, holding the posture and breathing for X amount of breaths, changing the
right,
posture,
right,
breathing for X amount of. It's
yeah,
basically a foundational practice as well. It's also
yeah,
pretty common in Beijing.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, really?
so
Okay. I
yeah,
remember listening to your podcast. You had the Italian
yeah,
martial
yeah, yeah,
artist.
yeah,
Yeah, he seems to know more about Meihua
yeah,
Trend, so I leave that portion to him. Right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I myself, I didn't
Yeah, it was
practice
very
it.
informative. Yeah, it was very informative. He was talking about like his first teacher was from Taiwan, and then he
Yeah,
went over to he met this other teacher in China, right? So
yeah.
yeah,
He's
so
actually
with
in
Sha.
Beijing now. He's living here
Oh,
now
really?
again. Yeah, he's been here since the beginning of the year
Yeah,
again. But he's
yeah,
heavily
and he
focused in
oh,
wrestling now, so that's
oh,
mostly
okay,
his thing.
yeah,
So
yes.
yeah,
So with Xiao Huyan, it's quite of a common also in Shandong, but then you have a lot of Shandong people who moved over to I believe it's Heilongjiang, right? Yeah, so they also have their version of Shaohuyan, both in Shandong, Taiwan, and then also in
Heilongjiang
Heilongjiang.
in the
Yeah, and
northeast.
then of course, right, of course, there's also in Hong Kong, and there's people practicing Shaohuyan. The characters are different
Right.
for yeah, for the second character, right, for the bird, whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. What
But if you look at it, if you analyze it, it's more or less the same.
you mean the routine?
The routine, exactly.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
So
Wang Song,
in Hong Kong, is it taught through the Chinwu Association or?
the Hong Kong, yes, the Jingwu Association. I think the famous teacher there was Lo Guangyu, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who also was
Yeah,
a Mantis background.
yeah, he think he moved from Yantai, I believe, and then he moved over to Shanghai, and then he was with the Jingwu Association, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, he moved over to. I'm not sure if he moved to Hong Kong. Yeah,
I'm not
I think
actually
his
sure,
student.
but maybe it's
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. If I don't want to get in trouble with the 7 Star community, right?
Yeah, I have a old friend who comes out of the Hong Kong Chinwu Association, but he's been in North America for a long time teaching. He's actually really
Yeah.
talented, but he's very low
Okay.
key. Older people
Yeah.
will know him. His name is Alex Kwok.
Okay.
But he's a phenomenal martial artist. He's much older now, though, but he
Right.
was really a great martial. His thing was mostly focused on Mizong Lohan, which was
Mm.
taught through the Jinwu Association there. But I mean, he was a very good representative of the Hong Kong Jinwu Association. And back in those early karate, sparring competition
Mm.
days, point sparring. But anyway, he was entering as a Chinese martial artist and just kicking butt, and that's like 70s and whatever. He's up in Canada.
From
I think he's
right.
in Calgary right
From
now. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. I should reach out and say hi. But yeah, he comes out of that Hong Kong
right. So,
Jingwu. So
I hope he's listening to the podcast.
well, I'll
I,
reach out and tell him every time I mention him in a podcast. Or he's mentioned in a podcast. I always send him a message. Say, hey, we were talking about you. So,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
well, I think in with the Jingwu curriculum, they had like the of course the Changquan, and then
yeah,
they also had the praying mantis, and they had the eagle claw.
yeah.
So there was an intermingling of styles, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, very
and
similar
and
to
then
the Guoshiguan's idea, so
ah yeah, and then when they moved to Hong Kong, I think the students brought it there. Not only in Hong Kong, they also spread it throughout Southeast Asia.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you could see with Will. Yeah, he went over and checked out some of the mantis in Southeast Asia. What I heard is that some of the footage didn't make it into the final cut.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I must ask him.
Yeah.
Ask him what.
Right.
If, maybe he'll
Exactly.
release a special edition later
Right.
if he feels like it.
Exactly.
If he feels like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jinwu was more. It was got a very strong foothold in Southeast Asia.
Mm,
Quite interesting.
right. I think there is an annual event. I'm not sure if it's annual, but they have this performance where they invite teachers from China, Hong Kong to come over to Malaysia.
Mm.
It's, sometimes I watch the videos. They have some
Okay.
interesting differences between the Shanghai or the China and the what the what was spread through the Jingwu in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be differences, but you could probably not it's you could see it's the same thing, just slight differences here and there.
Yeah, right.
So I want to
So
get back to your story with Gao Daosheng. You mentioned
yeah,
that you lived with him. How did
right.
that come about?
Well, I was going for my college education, so eventually moved to Seattle, Washington,
Okay.
and then there,
You froze your butt
I did.
off, yeah.
Yeah, yes, it rained too as well. Yeah. Anyways, the latte or the espresso helps, right?
Yeah, it does. Is that where your
It
coffee
does.
addiction began?
I think so.
Yeah, it's
I
funny.
think so.
When I was in high school, one of the first weekend jobs I had was at a coffee shop in South Africa called Seattle Coffee
Yeah.
Company,
Ah,
and it was
yeah.
based on
So
the that Pike
yeah,
market, the fish
yeah, Pike's
salesman.
yeah, the Pike Place,
Yeah,
Pike Place Market. Yeah,
yeah,
that's why
exactly.
in Taipei, when they opened the Starbucks, I said, I think I'm gonna come back to Taipei. I'm gonna live here because they have Starbucks, right? So whenever I feel like Seattle, then I go to Starbucks, right?
Right, right. Yeah, so
Yeah, so
then you went
I
off to
moved.
Seattle.
Yeah, I went to Seattle, and then I got into college, and at the same time, I was looking for a place to train, right?
Yeah.
So I met a teacher there, a Tai Chi Chuan teacher. I was very impressed with him. His name is Harrison Moretz,
Okay.
and he's the director of the Taoist Studies Institute. So I went to his school, right? Okay,
Mm.
on his back then, he had the windows, and they would say Bagua, Xingyi, right? I
Oh,
got
cool.
curious about that, yeah, and so I went over there and I said, "Oh, okay, I'm John Eusebio. I'm from Taiwan, blah blah blah." And then he says, then he started speaking to me in Mandarin. I was like, "Wow, this guy is a white person, and he speak fluent Mandarin." I'm
Very
impressed,
cool.
right? Yeah, and he asked me who my teacher was. I said, "Oh, Gao Daosheng." And he says, "Oh, Gao Daosheng, I know him. Xingyiquan, because Gao Daosheng used to teach at the New Park, Xingyiquan."
Ah,
And he said, "Ah, 我认识他, I know him." So he actually practiced with Gao Daosheng before, and I said, "Oh, really? Then that makes you my 师兄, right? 你是我师兄, right?"
mm.
And then he told me like, "Oh, we have a kids martial arts class here. Why don't you come over, right? You can teach the martial arts class for me." Just like
Oh,
that, right?
cool.
So I went over and then I helped him teach the kids martial arts class. So that kind of inspired me. So remember when I went to Seattle, I'd only trained with Galasher for 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I was sort of like, well, if you think about 2 years, and now you're looking from a 30-year practice, and you're like, what was I like when I first started
Mm.
training, right? 2 years, just learn a few forms, things
Yeah.
like that, right? Yeah, so I taught that the kids class, and that kind of inspired me, so maybe I should, teach martial arts for a living, right?
Mm.
So, we're laughing, both laughing here. So that's, you're young, so
Well,
yeah,
it's a very alluring way to practice martial arts. Tell
yeah,
yourself you have a job, but actually be broke.
exactly, exactly. Oh, it's pathetic. It's hard. I feel sorry for. I mean, it's a dream, right? It's a passion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh, anyway, so with Harrison Moretz, he exposed me to a lot of things too. He had a library
Hmm.
in his institute, and one of the books that I saw was Robert W. Smith's book,
Okay.
and he had two copies. And so I said, "Hey, Harrison, can I borrow this?" "Sure." And so I took it home and really read it, because a lot of the teachers he was talking about, you know, they're the teachers, the one I just mentioned, right? There's like
Yeah.
Han Jingtang,
Mm.
Wang Songting, and all this. So it's like, oh, it's really interesting, and made me want to go back to Taiwan again to really, really know, the art, right? Because I'd only
Right.
spent 2 years as like a basically an outside student, just coming in like weekly, maybe 3 or 4 times a week to college
Yeah.
school, and then went to Seattle. So I had that in my head, you know. And then, well, job wise, didn't really work out for me in Seattle. I was doing odd jobs. I was working at Haagen-Dazs, right,
Okay.
scooping ice cream. Yeah, and then one day I just told my mom, I was like, "Hey, I think I want to go back to Taiwan." And then she asked me if I was serious about it. I wanted to live with Gao Daosheng. She said, "Okay, that's what you want to do, and do it, right?" And
Mm.
then, no, I didn't have the money at that time, and so I kind of asked my dad, who hadn't contacted it in like since I don't know, since I was 13 or so. And so I
Right.
called him, and he said like, "Oh, so you want to go to Taiwan, huh?" So okay, sure. So he gave me like $300 and a plane ticket,
Okay.
and that was it. Okay, so I
Wh-
called Gao Laoshi. I called Gao Laoshi. Say, "Hey, Gao Laoshi, 我要跟你住，可以吗？我可以跟你可以." And he says, "Yeah, I had to get permission from my mom first."
Okay.
And then so my mom, uh, you know, uh, gave her the handset for the telephone, and he said, "Okay, okay, sure." So that's it. So I moved to Taiwan. That was in 1994, I believe,
Mm.
1994 or 93, 94 or 93, whichever. Yeah, I think it's 93. Yeah, 93. So I had $300 in my pocket, and I had to, find a job soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and yeah. So when with the EVA Airways, when they fly to Taiwan, usually arrive like around 5 a.m. or so.
Okay.
I remember that. Yeah, and so I got to college school at 6 a.m. Yeah, and then he uh, he showed me like, oh, I don't have a room for you right now, so you're gonna be staying in the same bedroom as me. It's like, whoa.
Was he
So,
was he single?
yeah, he's single. Yeah, he's
Ah,
single. Yeah,
thankfully, because that would have been awkward.
oh, yeah, yeah. So he had an extra another bed. Yeah, they don't have mattresses on their bed. It's just basically on top of a blanket.
Mm.
Yeah, just a board, and then on top of that was just a blanket, and
Right.
then you just yeah. So I stayed in the same bedroom with him for about like 2 weeks until he got the other room ready for me.
Okay.
So yeah, with scholarship in school, you have foreign students sometimes staying for 2 months, maybe 2 weeks, a month, and then some of them will stay for years. Yeah,
Oh, that's very cool. So he was
yeah,
actually pretty well known internationally that people would come and seek him out.
exactly. Yeah, we
Okay.
had students mostly from Japan. We had French students. We also had students from Saudi Arabia.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Well, that's very cool.
yeah, yeah. We had also like Israeli students from
Mm.
all over, Belgium, yeah, Australians, yeah, yeah.
How would they
And
have heard about Galauscher?
one of the ways they got to know Gaoshi was through the Guoshuhui, they call it at that time, 中华 Guoshuhui, right? Uh,
The
that wouldn't,
Goshu Association or
yeah, Go
Federation.
Association, right? And then
Yeah.
they would ask like, "Hey, they call them? Do you know do you know any martial arts teachers? I'm looking for a martial arts teacher." And they would either send them to, if they're into Wing Chun, they would send them to Lo Mangam,
Mm-hmm.
Lu Wenjing. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be the the Wing Chun, and then the other they would send to Gaoshi.
Do you know
Yeah,
anybody
so that
from those days from the Goshu Federation who was in charge? I don't. Was his name Yang Jui Feng or something like that? Was it Yang
not
some?
really, not really. I did train with Rosa Chen. I'm not sure if you know her. Rosa
No.
Chen.
No.
Um, she used to be a secretary there, and
Okay.
she's known internationally. She had the international coach for Tai Chi Chuan, and also
Oh,
she's
she's a
a
Tai Chi teacher.
certified judge for
Because there was a branch in South Africa of the Goshu Association.
No,
In my teen
might be.
years, I
Yeah.
competed quite a
Yep.
few times. I was their national champion quite a few times as well.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
a
really?
long time
Interesting.
ago. Yeah.
And they might be connected somehow because a lot
No,
of
they are connected.
Taiwanese.
Yeah, they're
Oh, they're connected.
connected.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Then.
So it
There you
was an
go.
official branch of theirs in South Africa. So.
Right. 'Cause I know there's a lot of Taiwanese who immigrated to South Africa.
Well, that's what I was going to
But
say to you because, and now, thanks for reminding me. Because when you said that you grew up in that area in Taiwan where the international school was, and your friend was like this
right,
blonde kid, etc., etc.
right.
I had the exact opposite experience in South Africa because I left South Africa young, and when I moved back, I was an immigrant, right? So
Right.
when I went to my first school on the first day, there were a few other immigrants, and they were from Taiwan, and
Ah,
and
interesting.
you know we were speaking earlier about the South African Dutch language, which is called Afrikaans. So
Afrikaans, yeah.
yeah, of course I'm way behind. I never because I didn't grow up in South Africa for those years. So when I went to the new school, when I got back there, I had to go do immigrant Afrikaans. So you know the kids.
Ah, it's like ESL basically, right?
Yeah, so
ESL
it's
for Africans,
when
yeah.
so when we had those classes, I was always with the immigrants, which were Taiwanese kids, and we became
Taiwan.
best friends. And so I grew up with mostly if at that time, if there were Chinese kids in South Africa, they were from Taiwan, and they became my best friends. So I grew up, you know, in their houses and
Ah, okay, so you got exposed to the Taiwanese culture. Were they Mandarin speaking or were they the Taiwanese or the
both.
Hoklo?
They
Both.
spoke, you know, that Taiwanese was kind of like a Minnan dialect, right?
Minnan,
And
right.
yeah, and Mandarin, of course, they learned at school. So, and then when I went to high school, I went to a Chinese high school, and it was originally
Ah,
Taiwanese aligned
so
with the Taiwanese government. So
okay.
we had
So,
like
so that were the classes in Mandarin?
yeah. So the school had two functions. The one
Yeah.
was
So
catering specifically for fresh off the boat immigrants, and then do
okay.
English
FOBs, yeah.
intensive. Yeah, they do English intensive courses in a
So this is a bilingual program, bilingual school. Right? You have those
right.
in Taiwan now. A lot of them are like that
Yeah.
now. They
So
they
that's where
they
that's
can.
where I went to high school. I mean, I remember in our
Oh,
assembly hall we had like a big portrait of Dr. Sun, you know, in the middle
Citizen,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Over the years,
Oh,
though, South Africa's Chinese demographic changed when business started happening with
yeah,
the
with China,
mainland. Yeah. So
mainland China, right?
and I must say, I think the mainland Chinese business took over. So a lot of the Taiwanese people kind of went back.
Yeah.
But you know, my best friends were. I think
From
some of the
Taiwan.
first Chinese words I learned were local Taiwanese curses. How to cut, you know, which aren't
I
even used
understand.
in the mainland.
Yeah. Well,
So,
in Taipei, when I grew up in Taipei, and Taipei, they didn't really speak much the Taiwanese, right? Because
uh,
at that time, remember, Taiwan was in martial law,
yeah.
so you couldn't speak Taiwanese in schools; it would be frowned upon, right?
Yeah. People don't actually know
So,
that about West. A lot of Westerners don't know that there was martial law
right,
and
and
things that were
I
going on
I
there.
grew up in that era. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they wouldn't, why don't you you've been in Taiwan for so long? How come you only know a few Taiwanese words were mostly curses, right? And then,
Yeah.
well, now it's getting better. Now it's getting better because my mother-in-law, they're from Geelong, so
Ah.
they they speak Taiwanese to me, and what are you talking about? Shamiwako, Shamiwako. Yeah, it's like, well, what is that? Well, what are you saying, right? Anyway, so yeah, in Kaohsiung though, in Tainan, those
Mm,
areas, Taichung, maybe they speak more, not maybe, but they do speak more Taiwanese.
mm.
In Taipei, it's exposed more to Mandarin. Yeah,
Well, it's
that's
quite.
interesting about
y-
your experience because I know
Yeah.
in Taiwan,
Mm.
Taiwan had diplomatic relations with South Africa for the longest time.
Very strong relations. That's why
Yeah,
I told you,
right.
like, even through high school when I was
Yeah.
competing, I was competing in the Gongfu Association championships down there.
Ah,
So,
okay,
yeah.
that's
They had lei
interesting. And
tai, they
then,
had everything, and then
you
slowly
mean
things changed.
those a lei tie we just have this sort of like a catcher's mask,
Yeah, so you
and
got the
the,
cage
the
on your face.
yellow and blue outfits, and then you only had these work gloves.
Yeah, and you're
I
allowed to
remember back.
knee each other.
Yeah, right. Those are tough. I've seen those. I've
Yeah.
seen those in person. I went to to the competition. I was like, wow, that's tough.
Yeah, but like I said, the demographic change. Even my high school, there were a bunch of kids at my high school who were basically, I mean, there was a Buddhist temple that was also built in South Africa, one of the biggest, and it was built by the Taiwanese government.
Okay. So.
And actually, a lot of the kids in the school that were with me in the first few years they had come to basically run Yiguandao temples, so yeah.
Interesting that you say that. Interesting that you say Yiguandao because my wife is Yiguandao.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you're still pretty strong over there. But wasn't it outlawed during martial law period in Taiwan?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. I
remember at some point it wasn't legal. It only became legal at some point.
Right.
Anyway, I'd have to look it up.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
So my wife's friend, but I mean I didn't meet her through the Yiguandao, but they've been known to the recruiting ways are kind of questionable sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had a few classmates that
they tried to recruit you.
Yeah,
to get you into Yiguandao.
Oh, you need a haircut. La, my mom cuts hair. Why don't you come over for a haircut? And the next thing you're getting the lecture.
You're getting initiated, right? Yeah, that happened to me before. I was teaching at this one kindergarten, right? And then one of the teachers, and at that time I was of course young. I said, "Oh, she's kind of cute, right?" And then she said, "Oh, can we meet on a weekend?" And I said, "Oh, sure." So I met her, and then she brought me to. Next thing you know, she brings me to this one place. My professor wants to meet you. I was like, "What, professor? I thought we were going on a date, right?"
Yeah.
And then there you go. You're in the middle of a lecture initiation.
So. But speaking of this connected to Robert Smith's experiences, I mean, Wang Shujin was involved in that too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he was a priest.
Wang Shujin. I heard also Wang Shujin and also Zhang Junfeng. Okay,
were they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
Well, they were Yiguandao, yeah. And then that's what I heard that I'm not sure because I'd have to ask Hong Zehan Lao Shi because he's coming out with that book, right?
Right, the blurred boundaries.
Boundaries. So with Christopher Bates. Yeah. So they know more about that. So I'll read it and see what I can. But what I heard is that Zhang Junfeng and Wang Shujin they were Yiguandao.
Yeah, that's
so a lot of their students were also involved with the Yiguandao.
Yeah, interesting.
But from my experience,
go ahead.
From my experience, like yours, like where the recruitment practices are questionable. They don't tell you, and then next thing you know, you're being initiated. And I didn't feel too good. I didn't feel too good about that. I kind of felt like I was deceived or tricked, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It kind of feels like when somebody. It's like when somebody. Calls you in for like can we meet for coffee? It's like a workmate and you meet for coffee and they're trying to get you into Amway. I'm like, oh Jesus.
So with my wife when I heard she was Yiguandao, I had to tell her my experience. That's another sect of Yiguandao. Oh, okay, so you guys are different, right? They don't force me to become vegetarian or to that.
I mean, these guys were really pretty nice folks. These guys were pretty strict. I went to one of my friends' homes, and they had dogs.
Yeah.
And the dogs are vegetarian. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't feed the dog meat. I'm like, your dog's not gonna make it, but the dog made it. I don't know. The dog was fine. So they had a couple of German shepherds. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just remember when I went to that lecture and the initiation, the person next to me also didn't know what he was there for.
Was he also on a date?
I'm not sure. Maybe the same girl invited him. Anyway, so he was actually Chinese American. So we were speaking English. Like, it's like, wait, why are you here? He says, I don't know. It's like, why are you here? I don't know.
This is the weirdest booty call I've ever had in my life.
Right. And then they had them separated. So you had like the males on the right side and the females on the left side. And the females were dressed in sort of like what with Madame Chang. She wears the traditional qipao.
Yeah.
I remember it was blue. It was beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a thing for cheap house. So I was like, oh, that's
What's
kind of nice.
the
I
interesting
asked my
thing
wife.
about a cheapao is that it's actually Manchu clothing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you were
The
mentioning
history of it.
the book that's coming out, Blurred Boundaries. But the Chinese version's been out for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah. Chris. I actually also train with Hong Han Lao Sư, who is
Oh, you do. Okay,
Hong
cool.
Hong Yixiang Sao. I started training with them because of Will.
Oh,
So
really?
what? Yeah, when Will came over, before that, he asked me like, "Hey, can you set up some interviews with martial arts teachers there?" Sure,
Yeah.
I'll call people, right? So, and
Mm.
one of the person that I kind of saw in their video that Hong Han has quite a social media presence. So I
Yeah.
said, "Hey, maybe I'll contact him." And when I contacted, I found out that the park that he trains in, is actually 5 minutes from where I live.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so I went up there and he's very friendly and says, okay, we'll consider the interview. Chris was there.
Mm.
And then, okay, so, but somehow the scheduling didn't work out. So
Yeah, something like that.
the interview didn't happen. But I asked Hong Lao Shi if I could, train, and said, sure. And so it's only 5 minutes from my home. So
Oh, very
really
cool.
nice. So, yeah, so I started training and then, and then they were talking about the book that was coming out. Chris was translating it. Yeah.
Mm. I
Yeah.
bought the
So
book when I was in Taipei.
yeah,
Uh,
you're talking about the there's also the Chinese version and then
yeah, that's the one I bought. I bought that one when it was just released, like a week after it was released. I happened to be in Taipei, and I
okay,
went through to Lion Books and bought it there.
great,
So
great,
I've had it for a while, but I'll get the English version because I think it needs
right.
to be
Well,
supported in a way.
The English version from what Christopher Bates told me is that it
Oh, yeah, I've
has more
heard now
material.
that too. So that's and also different material. So there's some
Right,
material in the
right.
Chinese
More
version that's not in the English one.
right.
So
They really went out of their way to get the photos, things like that.
right, yeah, yeah,
The copyright and everything, and they also got it
yeah. I had to
some
do all of that
photos.
for my book as well. You have to get rights for
Okay.
everything. You need if you're gonna
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it properly. Otherwise, you're gonna run into trouble.
right.
So yeah,
So some unreleased photos. So I'm really
very
looking
cool.
forward to that book as well, and yours
Yeah.
too.
Oh well, thanks. Actually, I'm
Yeah,
interviewing Chris on Monday. So
great,
that'll
great,
be
great.
interesting. That'll be interesting to
Yeah,
hear his
yeah,
journey and his story. But now that you're training with them, what's that been like? As coming from your background, I don't know what you're
right.
learning at the moment with them, but
Well, I kind of dabbled with Xingyi and
mm,
Bagua.
okay,
So my first teachers were Harrison. He showed me some
yes.
Bagua,
I was
and
going to
then
ask you about
also
his background. I don't know if you know much about his background.
I do.
Okay.
He's a disciple of Feng Ziqiang.
Okay, so he does Hunyuan, the Hunyuan system.
Yeah, Huanyan, yeah, the Chen style. He was the one who got me into Taiji as well. So
Okay.
yeah. So when I was in Seattle, I was translating for the visiting teachers.
Mm,
Most of them were the Huanyan teachers
right.
because they would get just a regular Chinese speaking person, and when they start saying the Taiji classics, they didn't understand, right? So it's different jargon. So they asked, "Hey, have Jump come over and translate." So that was it. Anyway, so through Harrison. What was the question again?
Well, we got his background. You said he's Feng Chang, but you were telling me about your background in Bagua and then how that's gone
Right,
into
right. Okay,
you
yeah.
dabbled.
So with exposed through Harrison because of the teachers that he had teaching at his school also.
Mm,
So
yeah.
there was Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie, I only trained with him for a couple months. But
Okay.
Zhang Jie was training with is that Liu Xinghan? Is that a
Yeah, Liu
Bagua name?
Xinghan, so that's South District Cheng style.
All right, okay. So he was teaching. That's what I guess what he was teaching me. So my first exposure to the Danhuan Zhang, Shuanghan Zhang, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and the Tang Ni Bu was from Zhang Jie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
Cool.
then later on, and in Seattle also, when I was living there for 5 years, I met Frank Wong.
Okay.
Yeah, Frank Wong, and at that time I had a student, Les Yanover. He's one day he called me and said, "Hey, there's a Xingyi seminar. I'm a slow learner, but if I have you come with me, I'll pay for your the the fee to attend the seminar, and then you just pick it up and then you teach it to me later. And I said, okay, that's a good deal, sure.
Cool.
So I went to that's when I met Frank Wong, and Frank Wong brought over Li Tailiang,
Ah, okay.
Professor Li Tailiang
From
from
New
he's
York.
from Taigugu, right? Taigugu province. He's supposed to be from I shouldn't say supposed, but he is from Taigugu province originally, right?
Well, yeah, he does Shanxi Xingyi.
Right, and he
So
told
his
me
lineage
that
is from
he was
Taigu.
Taigu, right? And then
Yeah.
he was he studied wushu at the Beijing University, right?
Yeah, so he was actually he was professionally involved in the sport, and then he had a focus on sandai as well.
Right, exactly. With he said his teacher was the Chachuan teacher. Uh,
At the
he was one
Beijing
of
Sport
the
University.
the Beijing sports. It's what's his name again? He's the coffee. Zhang
Oh, Zhang Wenguang.
Zhang Wang, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
So
he's passed
he said
away.
Zhang
Yeah,
Wang. Oh, sorry to hear that. Uh, well, he
it's
was
been a
born in
while
1910.
actually.
Yeah,
So
exactly. He was the delegate that was sent to Germany, right, in the 30s, right?
exactly, he performed at the Berlin Olympics. So you
Right,
know.
right, right. 1936, of course. Anyway, with he said Zhang Wenguang was really the person who started the Sanda, right?
Initiative. Yeah, started trying to.
Initiative, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to put Wu back into the wushu, right?
Well, just trying to make an event because there was an event before that had free fighting, and then
Ah,
there was that was stopped for a while. So he was just trying to bring back a standardized event, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So that was but back to the topic is the question was how did I get into the Bagua and Xingyi is
yeah, yeah,
through Zhang Jie Harrison and then also with Frank Wong
yeah.
attending that seminar where was Li Tailiang. Li Tailiang showed it was very strange because it's not I what I saw from the magazines and the
Mm,
videos is most of the what you call the Hebei Xingyi, right?
right.
Right, and then he was showing us more of like very hunchback,
Oh, so
because
they have Li Tailiang's Xingyi is actually combined a little bit. They kind of
okay
mix
so
Dai style with
well
Che
died
style.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
he showed us the first exercise he showed us was the monkey.
yeah.
What
So
was
that's
that?
Dai style Xingyi. That's
Yeah.
something else.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He told us to practice that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
Dun Ho Shi, the squatting monkey posture, and that exercise where you hunch back, squat, and slap
whenever
your
I learn
dantian.
something, yeah, whenever I learn something, I see something's different. I give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like get up really early in the morning before work, and I would do the squatting monkey exercise for
Okay.
quite a while. And I think the way when I saw he's really friendly because I helped translate during that seminar as well.
Okay. Cool.
So and he's telling me like, hey, show me some of your stuff. He said, hey, come to New York. Like that's what he told me. He told me to go over and to New York. I said, nah, I got commitments in Seattle, so I like it here. Yeah. Anyway, so he showed us the what's that the five elements.
Okay. The linking
Yeah,
or the individual.
just
Each
individual. It just
yeah,
showed us
yeah. So Wu
the
Xingquan.
pi zhang, right? The
Yeah.
pi zhang, the beng, the zhuan, heng. I don't know which order they
Pao.
go. But
Yeah, Pi
it's
Zuan
been a
Beng Pao
while.
Hong is the creative cycle, but a lot of people practice it Pi Beng Zuan Pao Hong. It doesn't really
Right,
matter.
right. He said something about like he said like the Dai family and the Che style, right?
Yeah, exactly. Che
Yeah,
style.
yeah, Che style. Yeah. So that's what and he also showed us like a sort of a form, a stick form. It's more based
Okay.
on the Tao. He called it the three
Biangan.
three treasure stick form.
Oh, okay. Sambao.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was a
Okay.
very short form, very short form. Yeah,
All
and
right.
they said Li Thailand, Professor Li Thailand was also training the Wu Jing or something, right? The police, right?
I think something like that while he was still in China, but he's
In
been in New
China, right?
York a very long time.
Very long time. Yeah, I think his son
Yeah.
is teaching for him now, right?
I think Li
Yeah,
Tailiang also still teaches, but
right,
yeah,
right, right. And then what
Mark
else?
Lee, his son. Yeah.
Right, Mark Lee. And then you were talking about who's that? The another martial arts teacher that passed away recently. And I remember you in your podcast. You and Andrea
Oh,
Falk. Is that
Shabo
her name?
Hua.
Yeah, Shabohua. That's so we have some mutual friends there. We
Yeah.
I met him through a dinner. Sorry, lunch with him. So he was a very interesting person. He's
He
very
was one
friendly,
of my
very nice.
favorite people. He was one of my favorite
Oh,
people that
really?
was involved
Really?
because he took no bullshit. He would tell you
Oh,
exactly
okay.
what he thinks about it,
Right. Okay.
and he
Yeah.
he comes from a traditional
Yeah.
background, and
Okay. Yeah.
he focused on
Yeah.
the full
He
thing.
made quite a yeah, he made quite an impression with me. So there
Yeah.
were two people there besides Professor
Shabo
Xia.
Hua.
There was also, sorry, and then there's also Michael Lee. Do you know him? Li Yongchen. Li
Not
Yongchen, yeah.
really. No.
Yeah, Li Yongchen, he comes from Gansu province in Lanzhou.
Okay.
I think he's a disciple of uh the what's the ones that did do
Ma
the
family.
yeah, the Ma family, yeah. He's one
Yeah,
of the
yeah, that would make
disciples there.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had lunch with the professor, and then the professor told me that he was. I said, like, I watch a lot of those survey videos, the Chinese version videos. He was in charge of that,
Ah, okay.
of the China martial arts survey videos.
Right.
Yeah, and then I said, oh, so what happened to the other ones, right? And he said, oh, I think they those videos are
They're locked up. They're locked
they're
up in
locked
a
up, right?
cupboard,
Yeah,
and they've probably grown mold on them. I've been trying to get them out for 20
exactly.
years. I've been trying to get
Yeah,
them out
right,
for
right.
20 years.
Right,
So,
right. So he said he was in charge of that, and so that was very interesting because I learned a lot from those videos, watching those videos, especially the Shandong survey videos.
right, right. That was the Wajue
Yeah.
Zhongli period, and they went and filmed all of these people that are no longer
Ah,
with us from back then. My
yeah.
teacher was also helping out because Kangoo Wu was an acquaintance.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
he,
Kangaroo. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
Okay.
so
Yeah.
they
It's
asked.
it's priceless videos. Yeah,
Yeah,
priceless.
and they're just
Invaluable.
they probably on are have been destroyed by mold by now. I wouldn't be surprised.
Uh,
So
that's terrible.
anyway, that's what
Yeah.
are you gonna do
So that
about
was
that?
my exposure to Xingyi and Bagua. I just kind of dabble. I didn't want to get too much into it
Mm,
because I didn't want it to influence too much of the praying mantis. So my
of
focus was
course.
really on the praying mantis. So he said, when you're cooking, you're slowly simmering it, right? Whatever you put
Mm,
in the pot, be careful, right?
yeah,
Put too much of
yeah,
one ingredient, the taste will be different. And they go, wait,
right.
不一样.
Yeah.
So I said, there's a praying mantis though that combines Xingyi and I don't know if it's Bagua, right? But they say
Mm,
it's the Babu Tanglang, right? 8-step praying
okay.
mantis. So there's
I
this
don't know
one
if I
form.
think it's isn't it Baji that they combine?
No, it's just it is Bagua. I don't know. Is it Bagua Zhang or another? There's another
Ah,
martial arts with the Bagua chair or something.
mm,
The other one Xingyi, and then
okay.
praying mantis. And then one of the forms, Li Pi. There's a section there where you do sort of like the Pi tread.
Oh, right.
So so that's kind of interesting. So I said, oh, maybe learn. So whenever I do that form and they do that section there, I kind of do it more of a Xingyi flavor. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And now
So
with
and
your studies with Hong Lao Shi,
yeah, Hong
what's
Long impresses me. He's he's in his 60s, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So the first time I got to see him was through that BBC program.
the way of the warrior.
Mar- yeah, right, right. So at that time, my impression of their system was why were they wearing karate uniforms? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of questioning that, right? But then from Robert W. Smith's book, he had very high regards for the family, right?
Yeah.
Hong Yishang, and yeah. So, just because of Will, like I said, right? I went to it, and then from the first lesson, I was really impressed with Hong Zehan Lao's skills,
Mm,
and also the way he explains the techniques, the movements, right? Uh,
right, right.
I say from what I learned, from what I've seen about Bagua and Xingyi, I think they very combine the elements of the Bagua and the Xingyi
No, you can
together.
see that. You can
Yeah,
see
very
that. Yeah.
well, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very focused. Every movement can be applied. Like they have an application for it. It's not
Yeah.
just like a fancy
Well,
movement.
that's how it's supposed to be with Xingyi and Bagua. There's certain
Yeah,
things that are Gongfa or Lian Gong, but the
Right.
majority of Xingyi's techniques are applicable, and Bagua
Right.
too. So
Right. So with the principles, the form and the movements, they all, and the applications, right? So, and
yeah,
also the power, right? There's
yeah,
also the power,
yeah. The
and I
Shinfa,
really
the
like.
body mechanics, and the whole
Right.
body
Right.
Zhengti. Yeah,
Right. And I really like Hong Lao Shi's Senfa. So, and then, yeah, and it's also
yeah.
is the way he teaches. The way he teaches is very, yeah, there's a good feeling. So, I mean, I've been
Well,
with other teachers. Yeah.
that's
So
great
he's
that
he's got it.
you've started to get that. I mean, it's not is it, it's really nice that even if you've practiced something for a long time, you've let those vegetables simmer for a long time. So they're your
Right. Right.
vegetables. They've got the right way now. They've got the right flavor. And
Yeah.
now
So
you can still go on and look at other stuff, learn some other stuff, and it won't really. It's only going to
yeah.
add to it at this point. It's not going to
Right.
do
Exactly.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really grateful to Gao Daosheng and my Sishong from Gao Daosheng. They really gave me a good martial arts background, like a solid foundation. So
Right.
the stances and also being able to uh, observe. The it's
Yeah.
very in martial arts you have to have a really good eye. See what people are really
Yeah.
doing. Yeah, and not just I see this. Monkey does that, I do the same thing.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, right, exactly. You have to analyze it too, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did
Well,
you did does the school of Gao Laoshi still exist?
it does. It does.
And
The
who's taken over?
the person who's taking over his grandson.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
his grandson. His grandson immigrated or came over to Taiwan when he was, I think, 10 or 12. So he
Ah,
has two grandsons. Both of them moved from Shandong to Taiwan later on. That was in the 90s, the late 90s.
okay.
Yeah, and then the 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 older son took over for a while, and then after that he returned to Shandong. The younger grandson is the one, Gao Yuhua is the one who's heading the
Who's
school
running
now.
it now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
running it now. Yeah, yeah.
And you
Yeah, but
still train there?
I do, I do. Sometimes they call me to go over there to instruct visiting students from from abroad. So
Very cool.
try to do what. Yeah. So I try to contribute, try to help out, things like that. So still I'm very involved with the family and my Dashishong. So I help out whenever I can.
All right,
But
great.
in Taiwan, the situation here is that not that many people practice traditional Chinese martial arts anymore.
I think it's a worldwide issue right now.
Yeah, so it's
So
kind of sad.
yeah.
So for example, at Hong Lao Shi's uh, park, right? The park where we train. The average
Mm.
age there is 50 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the students. Yeah, I'm 50, right? I'm over 50.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm considered one of the youngest there. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then with Gao Shi's school as well. They're not that many students anymore. Yeah.
But in Taiwan in general, is it that younger people are not interested in any martial arts? Is it?
It's a question of survival. I asked that question to
Mm,
people here, and they said, "Well, who's got the time to practice martial arts, right?
right.
But I have to. How much is the cost of living, right? You have to work how many hours? By the time you get
Mm,
home, you're so tired that do you have time for martial arts, right?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then also
Tragic.
distraction. Yeah, also distraction.
I think that's one of the
Just
key
distraction.
problems with the younger generation.
Yeah, right.
So
Are you hearing that? I hope I don't get distracted because there's a call coming in. I'm trying to
no,
to.
no, I don't hear it at all.
Okay.
So
Okay. Great. Great. So somebody,
yeah.
I shut it off. But anyway, yeah. So I was saying about the distraction here with the smartphone addiction, right?
Mm,
Yeah, as well as the not that much interest in the traditional Chinese martial arts. People don't have the
yeah.
time because they have to put in a lot of effort and work. Then also with the advent of the MMA, right? Young people are more like into
Is that
MMA
popular
than.
there?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. If they
The
have
last
if they
time I
have a
was
choice.
there, I think it was growing pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they have us the UFC center. They have a school here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and also yeah, next door to me there's actually a BJJ teacher teaching. He's a black belt from he's
Okay.
originally from Belgium, but he got his
Oh,
black
wow.
belt in Brazil. Yeah, he's also a kung fu brother of mine because back in the day he trained with Gao Daosheng.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Does he still
so
practice his
he
Chinese martial arts, or is he?
not much. Yeah, he gave it
Oh,
up.
well, that's
Yeah,
so
so
good.
he was when he was in Belgium, he trained in and he's coming to Taiwan to train in uh, Wing Chun and
Mm.
also with Lo Man Kam, I think, and then also Praying Mantis with Gao Daosheng, and then they would go over to Thailand to train in Muay Thai.
Okay, so he did most of the core
Right,
MMA skills, right? So a lot of
right,
people do
yeah,
Thai boxing, jujitsu, some wrestling, maybe some boxing.
right, right,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, his name is Tony Fares. Yeah, so he's over next door to me. He's got his school. Sometimes I hear that boom, boom, boom.
And that's a UFC center? No, that's just his
Uh,
school.
it's 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 a BJJ. It's a BJJ
Ah,
school.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
He
okay,
has his own he has his own system. Yeah.
okay.
And
Very cool.
I was also involved in Taipei with the Taiwan Yosekan Budo.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was training with in the Yosekan system. Uh, it's mostly I think based in France, right?
Yeah,
In
I
Europe.
think
It's
so.
big.
I think
Yeah,
so.
it's big in Europe. Yeah. So I wanted a place to continue my training.
Mm.
And when I went to the school, they had sparring, because in Chinese martial art they don't do much sparring, right?
Yeah, you got to be pretty
Yeah.
proactive to get people to spar with you. So I mean,
Right.
yeah.
So and safely too, right?
Well, nowadays it's easier, so there's really no excuse. I mean, I have a bag of headgear and gloves and stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'll do that with
yeah.
my
So,
kung fu brothers. But I would
right,
say back in the day when there wasn't so much safety equipment, it might have been even harder
yeah.
to do it. Now it's
Well, with the
pretty easy.
Yosekan, it's good. They actually put protective gear on too.
They
Like
have
the
like the
the
see-through
shin guards. Yeah,
dome on their face, right?
yeah. No, not no, I don't think so. Maybe
No, okay,
some guys use it. Basically,
right,
it's
right.
almost like it's like a catcher's
Oh, it's the
mask
shield. Yeah, yeah,
and a shield, right? They wear that, and also they wear the shin guards, right? The foot padding, the
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
for the kicking, right? And
The
then they
shin
put
and the
on the glove.
instep.
Yeah, and they put on the gloves. The idea is that you don't really need to grab to throw somebody, right? So
Mm,
they have
mm,
certain arm grabs, and their specialty is the sutemi, the
mm-hmm,
sacrifice throws.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we learn a lot of that. That's kind of fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun.
Yeah. So
So
when you do di gong, when I used to practice the rolling, the ground rolling, and then you apply it
yeah,
using your body, your to to help you generate the momentum, right?
yeah. So that
Yeah.
I mean that's a good outlet for any Chinese martial artist to go and do
Right,
that
right.
kind of stuff. I
So
mean that's
so
why I
yeah,
started
you
doing BJJ because I wanted to go try mess around with them when they were sparring, and then I
right.
just thought,
But
okay, all this
with
stuff
a
I've had for.
With a
Sorry.
Chinese martial arts background, when you're learning a lot of forms, movements,
Yeah.
you're very very aware of your body
Yeah.
and position. So you actually learn quicker than most people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have
You have
body feeling, natural feeling.
right,
So
yeah,
so
right.
intuition, your body knows how to move in certain
Yeah,
ways. So
yeah. It's just that you take it a little bit further
yeah.
than the okay. So after you push the guy, so what's next? What's next, right?
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
the sometimes the Chinese martial arts, either they uh they know it but they don't want to show you, or they just don't know it at all, right?
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah,
I wanted
right.
to ask you. I mean, we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon, but there's a question
Okay,
I wanted to ask you, and then we can end it on this. You've done martial arts for such a long time, and you continue
exactly.
to do it, right? And
Right.
if you look back, what would you say are the major benefits to your life that martial arts training has given you, specifically Chinese martial arts?
That's a deep question. Um,
Have a sip of your
I,
coffee.
no, it's just I I keep on to this because the memories, right? The people that I've trained with, the teachers,
Yeah,
it's they come back to me.
yeah.
Yes. because they put so much into their art, and somebody has to, to continue to train it. So in one way, it's their legacy. The other is it's the benefit. It's your body, your health, right? You have to maintain it. So you have to do some kind of movement, or otherwise, you're just going to. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing is the teachers are so nice to me.
Yeah, it's the people, isn't it? And especially the connection and the relationship you have with your teacher, and that bond, and then the memories that you forge over the years with them. Yeah.
Exactly.
I can agree a lot with that. That's why I think one of the key aspects, like we were talking about the village practices back in the day and whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of the time that was just a way for society to bond, those village members to bond, and it's really important. So that's why I think
your relation with your Kung Fu brothers, it's deeper than your own family members.
Yeah, and then you've got like today, people are so isolated, right? So that's I think something that martial arts, and definitely Chinese martial arts traditional Chinese martial arts has to offer, is that bond and that social connection with people, and a real social bond that you can build. I mean, you could get it from other martial arts too, but I'm speaking from a Chinese martial arts perspective. I mean, we have that whole thing we call our teacher Shifu with a character for father. You call your classmates brothers and sisters. You're a family basically.
Right. So that's what I could say for the 30 years of practice is I found a belonging where I belong.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to end it. It's been great chatting to you. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. Maybe hopefully we can meet sometime in the future.
Likewise. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure.
Okay.
You have a good evening, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.